So for part 3, before I get into reading response 3, I want to cover an activity that I have in the worksheet, which will help you with identifying plagiarism kind of in the more nitty gritty, especially with punctuation and things. So what I want you to do is just basically view this document, and it's going to give you some examples of plagiarism. So you'll see here where it says like problem 2. And then what I want you to do is go here and then just bold or highlight all the things that are wrong with that problem. So there's more directions in the document, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. All right. And what this will help you with too is for reading response 3, you're going to be asked to quote and summarize, and then for the remaining essays in the class 2, you'll have to quote and summarize. So this is just a good practice for you moving forward. And to get into reading response 3, basically what you're being asked to do is choose one of the 3 articles that you used for the opening or conclusion paragraph exercise and respond to the author's argument. And the point of this exercise is to get you to see how writing is done as a point of conversation and as a point of back and forth, which it often is with argumentative writing. And what you can do is write this response either as an academic paper or as a letter to the author. And I want you to focus on determining what is the author's kind of topic, what is their position on this topic, what do they want to get you to do or agree with them. And then for you to respond, do you agree or disagree with this author? And it may be a combination of both. You may agree with him in part and disagree with him in part. That is okay. All right, so all the same criteria applies, but for this assignment, I would like you to quote and provide a paraphrase or summary in your response paper like you learned about in chapter 29, okay? So you can find all of the details on pages 12 through 13 in the syllabus, and this assignment is due this Sunday. So what I recommend now is maybe go ahead, pause the video, go read this assignment in more detail. You have some questions to answer about your article and about it in the worksheet here. So it'll probably be a good idea to go choose your article, read it, and then come back and I'll walk you through the writing process for this assignment. All right, I'm just going to walk you through the whole writing process. Stop the video as you need, but I'm just going to keep going. So for your first step of discover, you need to ask yourself, what is the main argument that the author is making? Basically, what is the author's position on this issue or topic? What do they want to convince you of when they're writing their paper? And then once you've determined this, you basically have to decide, do you agree or disagree with the author's argument or position? And like I said earlier, you can agree and disagree in part. So you may agree with the author on one point, but disagree with them on the other, and that's okay. Then after that, what I want you to do is come up with 2 to 3 reasons why you agree and disagree with the author. Now, it could be you agree with the author fully, so then your reasons would focus on why you agree. Maybe you disagree with the author entirely, and then your reasons would explain why you disagree. So think about, does your own life experience affirm or not affirm what the author is saying? Maybe you've come across other evidence, or you've watched videos or seen articles that would disprove what this author's saying. So what are your reasons for your agreement or disagreement? All right, moving on to step 2 with sources. You're not required to do any research for this response. You may just pull on your own experience, but like I said, if you kind of like, oh, I just read an article this morning and it proves what this author's saying, feel free to go and use that. Perhaps something from the Bible or anything would affirm or disprove what the author's saying, so it's up to you. But no outside sources are required. But what you do need to do in this essay is look through the author's article and find places to use as examples to show why you agree or disagree. And one tip I have is focus on the author's evidence and line of reasoning, not just specifically what they're saying, but why are they saying what they're saying. And oftentimes when you counter evidence or reasoning, that makes for a much stronger rebuttal, or when you can add to an author's evidence or line of reasoning, it adds for a much stronger support. All right, so the third step at this point would just be to sit down and kind of plan out your draft and where it's going. And you have two formats to choose from. The essay format, which would look very much like all the essays you've written so far in the class. In your introduction, you would give the title and author. You would state the author's line of reasoning and then where you agree or disagree with them, and you'd provide a thesis. And then you would, in your body paragraphs, give your first reason for agreeing or disagreeing with the author, then your second, and if you have a third, you can add the third in. Now, if you agree and disagree, I recommend starting maybe with where you agree, and then moving on to where you disagree in the second paragraph. So that would be my suggestion. If you decide to do the letter format, you're pretty much going to follow the exact same outline. However, for your introduction, it might help to word it like this. Dear author, I'm writing in response to your article blank. And then you could go on to state where you're agreeing or disagreeing with the author and why. Then again, you would outline your reasons in your body paragraph. If you agree with them, I would recommend starting with that, and your disagreement, then giving it second. And then for the conclusion, ask yourself these questions. What final impression do you want to leave with the author? What do you want the author to think, feel, or do after reading your letter? So kind of consider those points. And then lastly, just apply what you learned about opening and conclusion paragraphs from the exercise that you did Thursday. So I will be looking for that in this week's reading response. All right, once you have your outline, you draft, and then for revising, do you incorporate both a quote and a paraphrase summary, since that's required? And then just like the things we learned about from the plagiarism exercise, do you have your in-text citations and quotation marks? Is your wording distinct enough in your summaries, paraphrases, etc.? And then one other thing, do you use proper MLA formatting? And have you used what we've learned so far about punctuation and grammar? Okay, so that's just a quick run through of the writing process for the reading response. Go do your essay, submit it, and then come back for part 4 where I'll walk you through what you need to do to start preparing for the Taking a Stand assignment or essay that is due next week.